but I'm just saying it could be any of that. The whole thing could be orchestrated up to the point where this guy doesn't even really exist. He could be another officer, and he could be somewhere else right now. He could be in California, fucking hair dyed brown, new coat, like nobody would even recognize him. And he's watching all this. He's having conversations. Can you believe that dude did that? Oh my God, that's crazy. Like, it could be anything.
Oh yeah, it could be anything. But if he disappears now, there's nothing but race riots in the street. What could be the end game could be they're gonna get this guy. The public officials have already accused this guy of murder, practically have him, convicted. So that's going to be in the mind of the citizens, especially the blacks who are there inside Minneapolis, and they're going to think, well, what do you know? Finally, we got Whitey on our side, and maybe we'll get some justice. And if a guy goes to trial, but he only gets like a manslaughter charge or a very slight charge, he gets convicted, but he only has to spend 4 years in jail, the black community's not going to like it. Now, let's say he goes to the trial and he gets acquitted. Now, they're going to be race riots. So I'm thinking this could be the catalyst for the beginning of race riots across the nation. And they will use that as more of an excuse to impose the social distancing, the medical tyranny we're under today, and to perhaps bring in martial law. Right now, we don't even know if we're going to have elections. So America's no longer America. It's America with a K. Welcome to the USSA.
Right.
So just...
Also, do you know anything in particular about Minneapolis? Is it a red state? Is it a blue state? What's important in Minneapolis to the United States? Anything?
Not a thing. Mm-mm.
There's no major government building. There's no main source of anything. There's nothing important comes out of Minneapolis. Nothing.
The only thing that I know about it was that Jesse Ventura used to be the governor, and as a result, he balanced the budget and he kind of instituted libertarian ways, and he was popular, I guess, until he got out. But other than that, Minneapolis is like Peoria. How's it going to play in Peoria? In other words, it's just a typical Midwestern city that has no distinction. So maybe they use that as a catalyst, to say if it can happen here, it can happen in New York, in Los Angeles, in Detroit, and we need to clamp down even more because that's their end game. They want to clamp down on the United States citizen as much as possible, but they don't want to do it in a way that reminds everybody of 1984 or of Stalin or of Hitler. So this medical bullshit, this medical tyranny we're under, this shit about the COVID-19 is so dangerous. The flu has already killed tens of thousands of people. And the so-called data and science changes every week. But that's the end game, to get people not to, in order to get people to comply, but not to be with each other. It's to eliminate the First Amendment of assembly, and it's to eventually get the guns from all of us in some way of saying, we can't have everybody have guns. Look what's happening. Everybody's blowing each other up in the streets. And then, of course, there'll be the nice media campaign, and the libtards will come out and start explaining, we need you to give up the guns so that you'll be safe. Now, look, people will say, it can't happen here. It happened in Germany. It happened in Russia. China's always been that way. It's happened in Cuba. It's happened all over the world. And it can happen. In fact, it's here. England, England, Germany, France, I'm glad the Western industrialized world. And it's been happening through immigration. In Germany, France, England, their economies, their culture is being destroyed by taking in immigrants, and not just immigrants. They're also taking in refugees. Now, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard of. How does a country, like, for example, the United States, Germany, France, and Britain, all of us are in NATO. How is it that NATO, they bomb Somalia, they bomb Yemen, they bomb Kosovo, they bomb all these countries, and then take refuge, not from Yugoslavia, but from Somalia, from Syria, etc., under UN mandate, take the people whose families we've killed, whose buildings we've destroyed, whose neighborhoods we've decimated, whose countries we've practically bombed off the earth, and put them in the country that bombed them and then expect no problems. You think that if you kill my family and you put me next door to the people who killed my family, I'm going to say, well, thank God I've got a good apartment now? No, you're going to say, I'm going to fuck this country up like they've never seen. So the culture, our culture through immigration, Germany, France, England, etc., Spain, all being destroyed through immigration and through refugees, through asylum, through sanctuary cities. Look, 1984 is here, folks. If it's not obvious, then you're going to find out when the electricity gets turned off. You won't be able to get on the internet. They'll limit the ration water. The meat packing, the processing plants will be shut down. Then all of a sudden you might recognize it. Maybe. Back to you, man.
But why? What do they need us to do?
Just to conquer.
I think. I mean,
that's the whole ambition.
It makes a good point. It makes a good point. You make a good point, Joe. That and Ron Paul mentions a book called Blowback a lot, and this is part of the problem we have in our global political stance and in our foreign policy, is that when we go over to try to quote unquote help other countries and stuff, there is unintended consequences from that. So if we go over and we're trying to make Iraq more free by blowing them up and showing them that democracy is the better way, or we police the world, just our presence there has unintended consequences. There's a reason why we no longer have U.S. naval bases in Japan anymore. The reason why is because they kicked us out because our soldiers over there were so good at raping young Japanese women that they finally were like, fuck you, get out of here. And so there's no more, they kicked us out because there's unintended consequences of that. Do you think that the Japanese citizens, I mean, we had all these medical, all these military personnel who were there, who were doing good things in Japan at that time. But because of a handful of people who did something very horrible and very terrible, and the backlash from that and stuff, now those naval bases and stuff are closed down, and Japan doesn't want anything to do with it. So, I mean, there are unintended consequences that come with our presence in another foreign nation. Even though we may supposedly go in for altruistic reasons, which I don't agree with. I agree that any time that we go to war in another country and the fucking war drums are beaten and we're sitting and saying like, oh, we're going because of this horrible thing, this dictator is gassing his own people and stuff. There's always some domestic reasons. There's always some type of American interests that are involved. But we just tell the people some altruistic reasons so that the people are behind it and agree with it. But the problem is that even if we did go for the best of intentions, even if it was those are the reasons, we're saving the people and we're fighting for the people who can't protect themselves. I am a real American, G.I. Joe. Like, if that's the reason why we're going there, the problem is that there are unintended consequences. There are innocent people who get killed. There is media who is covering that in that nation so that when innocent people do get killed and stuff, it becomes sensationalized. The same thing that happened, just this is case in point with this that happened, right? This is one guy who was murdered by this police officer, right? This is one man in an unfortunate situation, and we should all be outraged. But the whole fucking country is in an outrage now because of this one person that happened in this one situation in this one instance. Now, I'm not saying, I'm not belittling it, and I'm not belittling other situations that have happened like this, and I'm not saying that there isn't a gripe to be made for black people in the way that they're being treated overall in the justice system. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying, look at it. This one incident has the whole country in an outrage. There are protests. I just combined protests with riots and said riots So I think that's a good thing. There's riots everywhere now amongst the whole country because of this one situation that was this, this one situation that everybody has seen and everybody is outraged about. So look at the same thing as happening in other countries when we go there and we're there to quote unquote help. Even if our reasons are altruistic, which like I said, I don't believe that they are, but even if they were the best intentions in the world, we're going to get blowback from those countries. There are going to be people there who hate us because we're there in a foreign country. And that's the problem with our foreign policy in all these countries to police these other countries and to try to quote unquote build this better civilization when people don't want us there. Or even if they do want us there because of these unintentional consequences, don't want us there very long.
Well, you're absolutely right. And the book is The Economic Hitman by John Perkins. He was a guy that worked for the CIA and the economic infrastructure of the CIA. His job was to go over to various countries and to try to persuade the leaders of those countries to have to take loans if they needed loans in order for them to build up their infrastructure. And those particular dictators and leaders of those countries, if they wanted the loans, okay, cool. But you got loans at an exorbitant rate, and there were strings attached, such as you needed to have American engineers do the work. You couldn't have your own people, except maybe on a minor level. So if the dictators went along with it, they could skim off the top, so they made a few million, if not a couple of billion or so. But at the same time, if those who said, no, we don't want the United States interference, then he also mentioned in his book there was the next level was to send in, well, to warn them, like the mafia used to do. If you, how would you like to make sure that your windows aren't broken? We can protect you from vandals breaking your windows. So the next level would be, ambassadors saying, So they would warn them that way, and then if the dictators and leaders still said no, then they sent in the jackals, assassination teams, and that's what happened. America has, if you look it up on Google, America's invaded 40 nations. They've invaded 40 fucking nations already, including Canada. Okay? So, I mean, America is an imperialistic nation. Still is. But then again, so is every other developing nation, or developed nation, rather. Russia didn't go away because the wall went down. You don't think a general back in 1991 said, the Americans win. Let's go have vodka. And I want to now give up my career as a military general and become what I always wanted to be, a cab driver. No, they didn't do that. Communist China. They've always had their agenda was always world conquest, just like Japan was. Germany's was. Every developed nation wants to conquer the world. Why? Because politicians are psychopaths, and they train their citizens to be dumbed down farts, to be idiots, and we allow it because we're dumbed down, stupid, brainwashed people. It can't happen here. But see how brainwashed we are? We know that the lobbyists run the country. They tell the Congress what to do, and the Congress does it through bills, through pork, through earmarks, and we still keep re-electing these scumbags. So it can happen here. It's not only can happen here, it's happening here. It's here now. And I'm just glad I'm old enough so that I only have a few more years to live, because I will die of the old age coming quickly, because I do not want to see what's happening to the USSA. Back to you guys.
Well, I don't understand. I don't understand really with what China's play really is in all this, because China's a very strange nation in general. When you look at China's relationship with America, a lot of world politics and a lot of alliances and stuff really come from World War II. I mean, that's really when the whole world was in crisis.